Good morning, students. Welcome back to class biological classification. We have studied Aristotle. For the first time introduced scientific basis for classification and classified organisms into two kingdom plant and animalia. Later, Carolus Linnaeus, who introduced binomial nomenclature even in his period also. Same two kingdom system of classification was existed. After a long period of time, people felt that along with the morphological feature, they have to add certain other characteristic feature for classification, that is cell type, cell wall, nuclear membrane, mode of nutrition, body organization, evolutionary relationships, etc. What are the certain points they felt like adding? Cell type. What type of cell it is? And the details we will see next. Cell wall, whether cell wall is present or absent. If it is present, it is made up of what type of chemical? Nuclear membrane. Is it present or absent? And mode of nutrition, whether they are autotroph or heterotroph. And body organization. Body is made up of how many number of cells? And is there any tissues, organs, organ systems, etc. ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಕೆರಲಸ್ ಲಿನೇಯಸ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡಲ್ಲೂ ಆ ಎರಡು ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಎರಡೇ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಇದ್ದದ್ದು, ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅನಿಮೇಲಿಯಾ. ತುಂಬ ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ಎರಡು ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಸಾಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಬರೀ ಮಾರ್ಫಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ಫೀಚರ್ಸನ್ನು ಒಂದೇ ಕ್ರೈಟೀರಿಯಾಗಿ ತೊಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾವೇನು ತೊಗೋಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಸೆಲ್ ಟೈಪ್, ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವ ಥರದ ಸೆಲ್ ಆ ಜೀವಿಯ ದೇಹ ಮಾಡಲ್ಪಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಸೆಲ್ ವಾಲ್ ಉಂಟಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ, ಅಂದರೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಮಾ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ, ಕೋಶಪೊರೆ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಸೆಲ್ ವಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ನಾನ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಲೇಯರ್, ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಲೇಯರ್ ಉಂಟಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್, ಕೋಶ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಬೀಜ ಕೇಂದ್ರ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಅದ್ರ ಸುತ್ತಲ ಒಂದು ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಉಂಟಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಯಾವ ಥರ ತನ್ನ ಆಹಾರವನ್ನು ತಾನೇ ತಯಾರಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತದ ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಜೀವಿನ ಅವಲಂಬಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ದೇಹ ಒಂದೇ ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಮಾಡಲ್ಪಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಥವಾ ತುಂಬ ಸೆಲ್ಗಳಿದ್ದಾವೆ, ತುಂಬ ಸೆಲ್ಗಳು ಒಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಅಂಗಾಂಶ ಅಂಗ ಆ ಥರದ ರಚನೆಗಳಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ತಗೋಬೇಕು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಅನಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯಿತು. ಬೈ ದಿಸ್ ಟೈಮ್ after figuring that in 1916 R.H. Whittaker proposed the five kingdom system of classification. According to Whittaker, he classified organisms into five different kingdoms: kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. He classified organisms into five kingdoms. That the first one is kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Kingdom ಅಂತಂದರೆ ರಾಜ್ಯ, ಏನು ಸ್ಪೀಷೀಸ್ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀವು ಸ್ಪೀಷೀಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ, ಜೀನಸ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ, ಆರ್ಡರ್, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್, ಡಿವಿಷನ್, ಫೈಲಮ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಮೊನೆರಾ, ಪ್ರೊಟಿಸ್ಟಾ, ಫಂಗೈ, ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅನಿಮೇಲಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಫೈವ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಪ್ರಪೋಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ R.H. Whittaker. According to this, we will see what are the different characteristic features it is taken into consideration for classifying the organism into these five kingdoms. First one is cell type. Cell type means the body of the organism is made up of what type of cell? Cells are broadly of two types. One is prokaryotic. You can study two type of cell in this universe. In the earth, organisms are made up of either any one cell type, either it is a prokaryotic cell or eukaryotic cell. What do you mean by prokaryotic? As the name indicates, pro means primitive. Carrion. Pro means primitive. Carrion means nucleus. Means body is made up of, or a cell is made up of primitive nucleus. Primitive nucleus is present in the cell, then those cells are called as prokaryotic cell. What do you mean by that primitive nucleus? See, this is a bacterial cell. See, This is a bacterial cell. Usually what you will write, if it is an animal cell, if you are writing, here you will write it as, you write this as a nucleus. Yes or no? ನೀವು ಅನಿಮಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ದವಾಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲೊಂದು ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರನ್ನು ಬರೀತೀರಿ. ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಅಂತ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಬರ್ದವಾಗ ಹೊರಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನನ್ನು ಬರೀತೀರಿ, ಹೌದಾ? ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್, ಇನ್ ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಎ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಎನ್ವಲಪ್ around the genetic material, what do you mean by genetic material? DNA, RNA ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಓದಿರಲ್ಲ, DNA, ಆ DNA ಸುತ್ತ ಈ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಎನ್ವಲಪ್ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್, ಇನ್ ಎ ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್ this nuclear envelope is absent around the genetic material. This nuclear envelope, what I have drawn previously, this nuclear envelope is totally absent in a prokaryotic cell. I hope you have understood. In a prokaryotic cell is the one where this is DNA or genetic material. This is a bacterial cell. Imagine this is a bacterial cell. It is a prokaryote. In a prokaryotic cell, DNA or genetic material is naked. What do you mean by naked? It is not having any cover, protective cover. You call that protective cover as nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane is absent in a primitive nucleus. That is nothing but the prokaryotic cell. And prokaryotic cells are characteristic feature of kingdom Monera. And in the kingdom Protista, you will see cells are all eukaryotic cell. They possess a eukaryotic cell. Means, imagine it is a yeast cell or datum, anything for that matter, a cell. This is the genetic material. Genetic material is surrounded by nuclear envelope. A nuclear envelope is present. Nuclear envelope is present around the genetic material in a eukaryotic cell. In a eukaryotic cell, around the genetic material, a nuclear envelope is present. Here, as the name indicates, U means true. Karyon means nucleus. Means eukaryotic cells are those cells with the true nucleus. Here, true refers to the presence of nuclear envelope. ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಸೆಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಜೆನೆಟಿಕ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅಥವಾ DNA ಇರುತ್ತೆ. DNA ಸುತ್ತ ಒಂದು ಪೊರೆ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಸೆಲ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಜೆನೆಟಿಕ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅಥವಾ DNA ಸುತ್ತ ಒಂದು ಪೊರೆ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಆ ಸೆಲ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು ಯೂಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಅಂತ. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? So, in the kingdom Protista, we will see eukaryotic cell, and even in the kingdom fungi, you will see eukaryotic cell. Plantae also possess eukaryotic cell, and even Animalia also possess eukaryotic cell. That means only in the kingdom Monera we can see prokaryotic cell. In all the rest, that is Protista, fungi, Plantae, and Animalia, we can see eukaryotic cell. This is the first characteristic feature of all these 5 kingdoms. Next, cell wall. What do you mean by cell wall? There is a difference between cell wall and cell membrane. Yes or no? See, this is plant cell wall. Inner to that, you can see a plasma membrane, and next you will see a large central vacuole and a nucleus, etc., all the cell organelles, everything you will see. Now at present we should remember this much. This is what? Cell wall. Ideno plasma membrane. Plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is compulsory for a cell. Without plasma membrane, you cannot see an intact cell. That means whatever may be a cell, if it is living, it should possess plasma membrane. But cell wall is not compulsory. Cell wall is not compulsory, and the chemical with which this cell wall is made up of also differs from organism to organism based on the presence or absence of cell wall and nature of cell wall. All this 5 kingdom is classified. Now is it understood what we mean by cell wall? Let us proceed now. The cell wall in case of kingdom Monera, it is made up of non-cellulose. It is not made up of cellulose. You can remember plant cell, what I have drawn. In the plant cell wall is made up of cellulose. You have already studied in the lower class. Here the members of the kingdom Monera, it is composed of non-cellulosic cell wall. Cell wall is present, but it is not made up of cellulose. Instead of that, it is made up of special chemical, that is carbohydrate. Polysaccharide is a carbohydrate. You know that chemistry. It is made up of polysaccharide, that is carbohydrate, and amino acid. That means these amino acids are what? Building blocks of protein. That means in kingdom Monera, cell wall is made up of carbohydrate and protein. These two are special type of carbohydrate and protein that we will see when we study the kingdom Monera in detail. But right now you should remember, cell wall is present. It is made up of some non-cellulosic chemical, that is polysaccharide and amino acid. Next, in a kingdom Protista, cell wall is present in some, cell wall is absent in some. For example, in diatom, cell wall is present. It is made up of silica. Like that, it is not compulsory here. Next is kingdom Fungi. Here also cell wall is present, but it is made up of chemical chitin. It is a chitinous cell wall. A chitinous cell wall, or it is made up of chemical chitin, not cellulose. But in kingdom Plantae, you know this very well. They possess cell wall, it is made up of cellulose. And animals, we are not having cell wall around our cell membrane. Each cell is devoid of cell wall. That is why plants, animal cells are not having any definite shape. This is about cell wall. Next characteristic feature is nuclear membrane. This nuclear membrane, now you already know what is nuclear membrane, because this is vacuole. This is nuclear membrane. This is DM. Nuclear membrane is an envelope around the genetic material. What do you mean by nuclear envelope? It is a membrane around the genetic material. We call it as a nuclear membrane. This nuclear membrane is obviously absent in a prokaryotic cell. Whenever they say a cell is prokaryotic, you should remember that cell is without any nuclear envelope. Around the genetic material, there is no protective cover. Nuclear envelope is absent in kingdom Monera. It is present in Protista and even in a fungi, Plantae, and as well as Animalia. All the eukaryotic cell, they shows nuclear membrane. Only the prokaryotic cell, nuclear membrane is absent. Next is body organization. Nuclear membrane prokaryotic ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ 4 ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಸಹ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಎನ್ವೆಲಪ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಮೊನೆರಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಲ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಯಾವುದು? ಪ್ರೊಕ್ಯಾರಿಯೋಟಿಕ್. ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಎನ್ವೆಲಪ್ ಇಲ್ಲದ DNA ಉಂಟು, ಮತ್ತೆಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲೂ ಸಹ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಎನ್ವಲಪ್ ಇರುವ DNA ಉಂಟು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಇಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ 4, ಬಟ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಮೊನೆರಾ ನ್ಯೂಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಇಸ್ ಅಬ್ಸೆಂಟ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಬಾಡಿ ಇಸ್ ಮೇಡ್ ಅಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೌ ಮೆನಿ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೆಲ್. A organism is represented by either single cell or a single cell is capable of doing all the characteristic feature of an organism. For example, you studied amoeba, chlamydomonas, yeast, and all the bacteria. Whether a single body represents organism or a group of cells, similar in structure and function, we call them as tissue. And different tissues are grouped together form an organ. For example, liver, pancreas, or different organs are joined together to form an organ system. Liver, pancreas, salivary gland, entire stomach, esophagus together represents gastrointestinal tract. ಅಂದರೆ ಜೀರ್ಣಾಂಗ ವ್ಯೂಹ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದೊಂದು ಆರ್ಗನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್. ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಆರ್ಗನ್ಗಳಿರ್ತವೆ, ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಟಿಶ್ಯೂಸ್ಗಳು ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಈಗ ಪ್ರತಿ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಸ್ ಮೇಡ್ ಅಪ್ ಆಫ್ ವೆದರ್ ದೇ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಬೈ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಆರ್ ಮೆನಿ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್. ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟುಡ್? ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಮೊನೆರಾ, where each organism is represented by single cell, they are cellular. And even in the kingdom Protista, they are cellular. Single cell is capable of representing an organism. But fungi onwards, where you will see multicellular. For example, agaricus, anabe anta ಏನು ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, where they are multicellular. The each agaricus or anabe, it is made up of more than one cell. Hence it is multicellular, and cells are loosely arranged to form a tissue, a so-called tissue, primitive tissue. And in kingdom Plantae and Animalia, we will see tissue, organ and organ system grade of organization. More complexity you will see in plants and animals, and the complexity is keeps on decreasing as you come backward. Next is mode of nutrition. Mode of nutrition is how they get the food. Are they self-feeding? That is autotroph. Auto means self. Tropha means feeding. Are they feeding themselves, or are they capable of synthesizing their own food? ಅವು ತಮ್ಮ ಆಹಾರವನ್ನು ತಾವೇ ತಯಾರಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತವ ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಯಾರ ಮೇಲಾದ್ರೂ ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾವ? ಆಟೋಟ್ರೋಫ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಆಹಾರನ ತಾವೇ ತಯಾರಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋವು. ಹೇಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ತಮ್ಮ ಆಹಾರನ ತಾವೇ ತಯಾರಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೇವೆ? ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮಿಗೆ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಮತ್ತು ವಾಟರನ್ನು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಮಾಡುವ ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಬಂದು ಗ್ಲೂಕೋಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, C6H12O6. This is nothing but photosynthesis. You have studied in lower class. And this members of kingdom Monera, they are autotrophs. They are capable of synthesizing their own food. That means they are able to join carbon dioxide and water, and thereby they get glucose. But the mode of getting this glucose differs. They may be photoautotrophs or chemoautotrophs. What do you mean by photoautotrophs? Means this classification is based on the energy source, or where carbon dioxide and water are fused for energy. Which energy source it is? Energy is given by either light, photon of light, or chemical. Photon of light or chemical. ಈಗ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಉಂಟು, ವಾತಾವರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟರ್ ಉಂಟು, ಅದೆರಡು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗ್ಲೂಕೋಸ್ ಸಿಗೋಲ್ಲ. ಇದೆರಡು ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಹೊಸ ಬಾಂಡ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಇಟ್ ನೀಡ್ಸ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ. ಆ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬರ್ತದೆ? ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅ ಫೋಟೋನ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಟ್, ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಸನ್ಲೈಟ್, ದೆನ್ ಸಚ್ ಎ photosynthesis is called as such autotrophs are called as photoautotrophs. If they get the energy by using certain chemicals like oxides of sulfur and iron, ಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಲ್ಫರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಐರನ್ನ ಅದನ್ನು ಆ ಥರದ ಕೆಮಿಕಲನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ದ ಎನರ್ಜಿ, ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ chemoautotrophs. For example, purple sulfur bacteria, etc. Next we will see heterotrophs. Autotrophs ಅಲ್ಲಿ photoautotrophs or chemoautotrophs. Heterotrophs are those organisms those mononeral members which are incapable of synthesizing their food. They are dependent on some other organisms for the food source. Protista, in which all are autotrophs capable of synthesizing their food, and where the source of energy is light, photon of light. And fungi, they are all heterotrophs, and that too saprophytes, means they are growing on the decaying organic matter. ಈಗ ಅಣಬೆ ಬೂಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಸಹ ಕೊಳಿತಾ ಇರುವ ವಸ್ತುಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೆಳೀತವೆ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಯಾಪ್ರೋಫೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Next, autotrophs, plants, all the members of the kingdom plant are autotrophs capable of synthesizing their own food through photosynthesis, and animals are heterotrophs. But we differ from Monera as well as fungi in the sense we are engulfing the food. We are not feeding on the decaying organic matter. We engulf the food and it is digested in our system using certain chemicals or enzymes. Hence, we are heterotrophs, shows holozoic mode of nutrition. This is 5 different kingdom and their characteristics, features. In the next class, we will study each kingdom in detail. What are the characteristic feature of each kingdom, what are the speciality of the kingdom, and their classification if it is there, what are the different groups are there, and examples in the next class. Okay, is it understood? Okay, thank you.